Jim, talk a little bit about the cord that goes between the kid and the parent.
Oh yeah, this is really very kind of fascinating. So when a child is born, there is that umbilical cord, and that's cut the physical separation between the child and the parent. But there's another cord, and that cord is the alignment of the child who really has no sense of safety at all. So, you could put the baby out on the doorstep, close the door, end of the day for the baby. That space where, particularly with the mother, that relationship with the mother to keep the child safe is very intense. It's where the mother wakes up in the middle of the night because the baby turned over in the other room. That relationship, that cord, continues all the way to puberty. And what puberty is really very much about is the cord being separated from the mother. So one of the things that's important to understand is that cord belongs to the child, not the mother. And the child is basically saying at puberty, I think I'm old enough to figure it out. I want my cord back. If the parent or the family is one that basically is very controlling or worried about or very over the top safety oriented, you can't do this and watch out for that type of thing, the child still says, I want the cord back. And many times in the dynamic of the energy, the mother will say, oh no, you're not ready. I really want to make sure you're safe and you're well taken care of. In those circumstances, this is where you see, little Sally with the white gloves and white hat and basically doesn't disturb things and is quiet and is unheard and is over there. And she's so cute, that little Sally, until she says, I want my cord back. And the mother says, no, you're not ready on an energetic level. Well, little Sally all of a sudden winds up into drugs, sex, rock and rolls, spiked collar around her neck, pink hair, and says, I'll show you. It's not a defiant rudeness. It's really simply, I want my cord back and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it. So understanding that space about puberty is really about this allowing the child to begin to have a fluidness in exploring itself and not controlling it makes that state of puberty for the child far more comfortable, and the interaction with the parents generally far more comfortable also.
Can you speak on parenting a young child to allow them their seniority and still raise them well? Great question.
Yes, it's one of my favorite questions. So one of the things is we've all been parented from right and wrong and good and bad, and this is what I want you to do because I'm creating you in my image, because this is all I know, and so I'm going to tell you how to do it. The simple question is, how did that work? And for most of us, it didn't work real well. We also recognize that we all kind of grew up in plus or minus some level of dysfunctionality in this family life that we grew up in. Where you're all now starting to be able to play and starting to recognize that you can't be not okay. You can dress yourself differently in terms of the feelings of words like gracious and kind and gratitude and appreciation and certain, capable, seniority, focused, precise. As you start to recognize that I have a child and my job is pretty much the steward, the caregiver, the educator of this child until they're 18, let's say. And in that process, one of the things that you do is you provide information, but you give them room to experience it themselves. And sometimes they even fall down on their nose. Please let them fall down on their nose. And then you get down on the floor and go, whoa, that didn't work out really good, did it? Wasn't there what else we could do? And then let them tell you. All of a sudden, words that you're wearing in your own demeanor, certain, capable, gracious, they see all of that. And then you begin to do something very valuable. You give them permission, big word, and you allow them to recognize that you actually don't give them permission. They have permission. Nobody gives you permission. It's your birthright permission. And your birthright also is allowing, another big word, to navigate to find your own truth. And so if a parent can allow the child to have permission and allow them the room to experience their permission, their creativity, their ability to fall down, their ability to know what's appropriate and inappropriate, begin to engage with that internal guidance system in the heart that simply says, yeah, I don't think so. You all know that place. Every time you listened, you came out on your feet. There were times where it said, jump off the cliff and fly, and everybody went, don't do that. And you went, yeah, I have to do this. And it worked. Allow that little kid all through their 18 years to experience themselves. Create boundaries, create lines, talk to a wide, you know, you really don't want to put your hand on that hot stove. It's not a fearful direction. It's a piece of information for them to choose. Very different parenting you're going to begin to see in the future, because what was just said has been very placed into the ethers for all of the new children and the millennial types and the ones behind them. This is going to be how they navigate their parenting. Hope that's helpful.
I have a 3-year-old who's in preschool and experiencing good and bad interactions with peers. She was pushed by another kid yesterday and came home upset. I'm wondering what's the best way to handle situations like this. I let her talk about it and try to validate her feelings while also not making a big deal of it. We talk a lot about how other people might be having a bad day and might not know how to deal with their feelings, and so they might push or might say something mean. She lets things go fairly quickly once she's let out the emotion, but she seems to be a sensitive kid, and I don't want to add to her backpack. Any thoughts on parenting this next generation? I know she's part of this new wave of kids that you've talked about.
Yeah, so one of the things, even though you're all early into playing with this from your standpoint, is this rose at the edge of your aura, just kind of defining your space. They know this, but saying it out loud, playing with them, you have your rose up and they have their rose up, and you kind of move right to the tip of their nose and watch the rose and move back. Literally play the game with them. Walk towards them, let them move their rose back, stop it at the edge of their aura. They will start telling you, Mommy, you're not using your rose. I mean, count on it. That's how quick they're going to respond. Giving them tools and demonstrating your capacity to wear these tools and be this person that you're wanting to be is the best teaching tool there is for these young kids. You know, the kid that pushed is living in a family where pushing is okay and yelling and screaming may be okay. And so they're mimicking the parents. So in this case, you start teaching these tools. And one of the things these kids understand, really understand this word I'm going to use in its context, is they understand using that rose how to become invisible. And I don't mean invisible, they disappear. I mean simply they get quiet and manage their space, and that anger or that resentment passes them right by. It's part of what you'll learn. It's a managed skill that comes with the energetics of all this. And you start to let them begin to discern. This word discern is an enormous word. And you recognize another aspect, which is permission is not something that's given. Permission is something that you have. And so what parents do is, I don't give you permission. You can't do that. You don't have my permission. And we go, okay, and we give up our seniority. These kids understand seniority, and when they recognize that they can have permission to play and manage themselves, your job as a parent shifts dramatically. I mean, it begins to be a challenge being a parent to a certain capable senior kid. And it's a matter of basically then words like respect and dignity and integrity begin to play into it, and recognizing that you don't violate other people's space. That's a whole skill set that our parents never taught us. They understand this. Parents that don't understand how to deal in things like respect and appreciation and allowing, at the same time making it really clear to the kid, you have responsibilities here. And they are going to have to learn how to manage that space too. So to the parent, it's a very different learning experience for the parent to parent than it was how we were parented. if that is helpful, I hope. We'll talk more about parenting.
I want to add one more thing, Liz. I don't know if we did this in level 1. There's a way to set the tone for what you're going to step into. So for instance, before Jim or I teach classes, we just take a few minutes and we do a few colors. What words would I like to experience? Fun, progression, success, what words? We create the tone for the meeting. When I was working in a straight world, every time I had a meeting, I would sit down for just 2 minutes or less and set what I wanted to step into. 98% of the time, that's exactly what I stepped into. So for your little girl, play that, add that as a game. Okay, you're going to preschool today. What do you want to do? What kind of words do you want to experience? And create it kind of like in a bubble around her. So she's holding fun, learning, expression, whatever the words are, in her bubble. And she can check in with that bubble throughout the day if she remembers. It's just, and she won't, just like us adults don't remember when we do these things sometimes. So that's just another tool that you might want to play with her to see what she experiences.
Yeah, the thing about parenting too is you're the student, they're the teacher in this next round of things. But they have little bodies and they have not fully grown into all the information in their aura. You have a bigger body and now you're basically learning a whole bunch of skills that's going to help them facilitate that learning in their space. If you can allow them, I'm talking to everybody, allow them permission and allowing them to understand themselves, they're going to fall on their nose, they're going to make mistakes, but as they really understand, oh, that didn't work, they're going to begin to be the teachers. And if you just allow them to show you some of these energies that they're going to be demonstrating, you're going to find it's a great benefit personally in the next 10, 15 years particularly.
What can I do to help my son keep his energy around energy draining family members? I ground him, but is there a way of using a rose tool on his behalf?
So grounding them kind of works best. You can always ground somebody else. What is actually the answer to the question is become who you are in his presence. Now, that doesn't mean anything right now because you haven't been playing in the place that we're pointing to. But as you begin to really become more masterful at staying at your side of the rose, as you begin to recognize I could scream at that person on the other side of my rose, but it's not necessary, or there's a better way to do it. As you put that mental and emotional body back together, you begin to demonstrate yourself very differently. As you begin to have a sense of certainty about yourself, you start to find happy as a feeling that you can manage and own all the time. In the presence of the little kids, they know this stuff. They know what you're learning. So just simply beginning to say to little kids, here, let's create a tale. You know, you get a 2-year-old and you tell them, we're going to be like the monkey. We're going to create a tail all the way to the center of the earth. By the time you're getting them, starting to explain it, they've already done it. See, you came into the body with all of this working, and we've been talked out of it in 3D. Now, we're not looking for bad people. It's just how we've all done it. These new kids coming in, they are dramatically different than you and me. I mean, amazingly different. They're wired different. Their whole thinking pattern is different. We could talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence. That's how their brains already work. It's how the soul thinks in this vast level of data management. We're just beginning to play with it as a tool. But these kids coming in are coming in fully loaded. So the best thing you do in a parenting standpoint is let the kids fall down on their nose, get down on the floor and go, that didn't work out really good. What else could we do? And they begin to recognize choices. You basically show them how to ground. You simply demonstrate beauty in your energetic field. They know all this stuff. They just start making it real in this lifetime, in this body. It's not these little kids that the world needs to worry about. It's us adults that we need to worry about much more so.